Goes nothing. So, hello from the Command Module Venture. It's November in Michigan and this is the first snow. I took some time to address and insulate some areas that I didn't insulate last winter in West Virginia. And well, it's cold out here, so let's get right into it. Last year, I didn't address the doors, and from my thermal analysis in my last year's video, which I'll link to this video, there wasn't a lot of heat coming out, but I was on a mission to do anything I could. So I bought this weather stripping, and I did the whole circumference of the door, and what you can see now is if I close it, it doesn't go in all the way. It takes a little push, and that tells me that it's doing something. So that is a great thing. Another thing I did, which is a kind of a Hail Mary, is that I put weather stripping against this door. Now this whole plastic unit is just a tunnel for cold, and I could insulate it from the inside, but I'll talk about that later. But at least I keep wind, because one of the big problems is wind, driving wind during the winter, and so that was a little fix. See, we got a little bit of snow built up there, and likewise on this door as well. I put some weather stripping around the edge, and again, it now closes with a nice little koosh sound. You have to force it, so I know that's an improvement. And then this door, the freshwater door, I also put a seal here. Now then, with my FLIR camera, I took a shot of this door from the water heater, and the water heater itself is insulated. There's insulation on the inside all around it. So as the FLIR camera shows, there's almost no heat loss through this door, even though this has a vent. You know, there's no heat coming out of here. Now then, one of the biggest culprits is the vent for the refrigerator. It's just a freight train of heat coming out from last year on the FLIR camera. And what I've done is I've put 2 layers. I don't think you can see it. I'm not going to take this off now. There are 2 layers of Reflectix in here blocking off the heat. This vent is for when you use the refrigerator on gas. And I'm not using that. I'm using it on electricity, so there's no danger for me plugging it up. Now, likewise, this is the intake fresh air, and I've blocked that off as well. Now, where the real work was done, and at the risk of losing all my heat, but I want to show you this. This was the original seal for the door, and there was none on the screen door. And this face, I put weather stripping all the way up. Now there's such a gap here that I actually put much larger stuff right here, and that fills the gap in. But this weather stripping goes all the way around, and then you'll see up at the top here, all the way around this arch is really thick insulation. And so when I close the door, and I have to actively push it now to close it, you'll see that that whole gap is completely taken up with that weather stripping. And that was a huge point of heat loss from my FLIR camera of last winter. And it really does well. And of course that thinner weather stripping I have on this side too. So now this whole door is weather stripped, and it's odd that those faces could have been weather stripped at the factory but are not. But it's really nice now. That it gives me a good feeling that I have this all sealed up. What I've also done with the small weather stripping is in every window I've put it in the gap. There's a gap where it slides, and I've put it in every window. And you know, I'm obviously not going to open the window, so I think that'll help too. Here's the door, and it's now 25 degrees outside, and this trailer has been cold soaked in sub-freezing weather for over 2 days, so there's nothing warm about it. But let's look at the door and do a nice analysis. Now it's reflecting 22 degrees. Here it's even colder, so there's no air getting into this door. I mean, you know, it's such a low factor that so let's take a look now here. You can almost see the heat of the TV against the wall through the wall, and just a little bit. But that's what that bright spot is. Right behind it is the TV. Again, notice the superstructure conducting the cold. Here's the kitchen window, and it's reflecting 27. Now as we go up, you see heat rises inside, and the window frame doesn't let me put that Reflectix up against it. So what does that say? 40 degrees. Now the door frame, even with the weather stripping, is 47. The door handle is 29. So now it's not. I'm telling you, it's not as bad as last year. But you know, it's a metal door frame, and heat's going to get through there. And that's the starboard underneath the dinette, and it's nice and cold. And now we're at the front. I've got Reflectix in every window. 40 there. You can see my double strip of Reflectix. And there's a little warmth coming through that storage bin because there's no Reflectix and no insulation at all on these fiberglass fronts. You can see where I put Reflectix up against in my electrical bag because it was getting too cold. That was from last year. And we'll go to the side. And here we see the window with Reflectix. Notice the framework. That's nice and cold, that panel. There's the intake to my fridge. Now notice my furnace is just running. Look at that. It's not running at the moment. It's 69 degrees inside. And this is the big improvement. There's no longer heat just beaming out of that vent. There is a little bit, but there's nothing like it was. So I've trapped some of that. And moving back to the back, finally we have the side window. Again, heat's coming up to the top because there's no way to seal it, but that's Reflectix. It's very cold there. Look at that door. That's cold. And I don't think there's any cold air coming in through there. It's all mainly the windows. And look at my, what is that? Oh, there's the fresh water port. And the electrical port is extremely cold. Huh, interesting. Okay. Good evening from the Command Module Venture Lounge. I've come inside. It's 24 degrees. It'll get slightly warmer, but I wanted to take the thermal camera pictures when it was colder. As you can see, there really wasn't a lot of heavy work done on the outside. Barring the door was a major improvement, and the plugging the vents of the refrigerator are a huge deal. The weather stripping isn't that great of a deal, except now, you know, I get a satisfying cushy seal when I close doors. The main door, it's huge, not so much from this side. But let's go ahead and see what the real improvements I made were to the inside. And let's go check that out. Now you'll see that what I've done with the floor is I've bought some inexpensive moving blankets at Home Depot. And I have Reflectix insulation underneath the top part, and that provides an easy way to do the footprint of the entire floor, and it does help. And as an experiment, what I've done here is I've velcroed a strip of Reflectix all across the ceiling, and Reflectix helps with the heat reflection. And I didn't want to, for this experiment, put it against the surface in case there would be condensation. I don't think there would be, but I just wanted to try this first because I sit here in the lounge area and it would be nice if the heat reflects down. To that extent, I've done with the storage doors is I have completely covered them with Reflectix too. So as I sit here, when it gets really cold, I'll get some heat reflection. As the heat rises, it'll reflect off the Reflectix. And that is the experiment anyway. I do have the air conditioning and the max air fan covered this year. I think that's important. I kind of got lazy with that last year. It's just simple to do. So I did cover those with the Reflectix. And you'll see that there is a rear panel also across the bed. And these storage doors there also have a covering of Reflectix as well. So I think this will work. I do already feel heat reflecting off this panel. I haven't really had the opportunity to open these. Of course, when they're closed, you know, it helps insulate this portion of the eyebrow of the fiberglass front. So that's what I've done, and I think it'll help. And in the lavatory, I have a Reflectix cap, I call it, that is velcroed over the vent. This is the coldest part of the trailer, bar none, when you open this lav. I suspect the outer wall is not insulated, but this really helps. Now it does cut down on the light, but I think that light is way too bright at 3 a.m. if you know what I'm saying. So it gives off enough light still. And laying down in bed, you'll see the strip of Reflectix. It's largely over my body. I did try to space it so it's not blocking the CO detector in the light, and just have it velcroed across. And then of course, if you open up these cabinets, it has Reflectix. So, you know, it hopefully my body heat will reflect a little bit. It certainly does, more than not having it here. So, you know, it's all experimental. It was fun to do. Along with the Reflectix behind the vertical pads that I had last year, it's all tucked down in there. It really helps. I've also put it on these side pads of the lounge. That's sticking up right there. It needs to be shoved down. I didn't have those last year, and I think that'll make it a little warmer. I have a thin strip of Reflectix here in the front window, and it's just sitting down here. But at night, I like to rest my arm on the pad, and you know, as soon as the sun goes down, this thing turns cold. It's actually warm to the touch now, the window, because there's sun on it. And that is an important tip to emphasize. When you park this in the winter and you camp in this trailer in the winter, you want this window to face the sun, because you get an incredible amount of solar heating in here. And it's important. I had the opportunity to move in this park, but it faced the wrong way, and I refused to move. I kept this location expressly because it's in the sun. And of course at night, just as last year, I have the coverings that go all the way up, and I just leave this here in there anyway, but that's very helpful. Okay, I have all the lights off. I guess my computer's on, and you see how my computer is warm. The furnace is running. I'm running it up to 70 degrees. Now you'll notice this is the front right of the trailer, front window, right to left. It's the passenger side, up in the upper corner. Now I've got all my Reflectix up in all windows, plus the improvements. I'll see I talk about this later, a new panel I suspend from the top of Reflectix. You know, the windows, so you see it's bright because the heat is reflecting off of it. You know, it's Reflectix behind the window, and then the shade is rolled down and heat is reflecting off of it. The very dark areas are cold, and notice my nemesis, the door frame. You know, and it's partly because it conducts cold, the metal frame. I mean, it's not that it's leaking air per se. Now, this is at the top, like over the kitchen. You see the very cold areas. That's the AC that is now covered with Reflectix, and it's reflecting heat up that rises. I just turned the TV off, so it's still warm. This is the kitchen window with Reflectix in it. That is the shade is also drawn, so it's reflecting out. You know, notice where it's cold. It's right at the bottom of the window across. And let's see, this right here is the Max Air fan that's now covered with Reflectix. Okay, now this is looking back, and that's the dreaded floor by where it comes under the drawer. It doesn't get any colder than that. Oh, it's 53 degrees. Mind you, it's 26 outside. And I'll probably mention that 4 times. That's my trash bag there. This is my ceramic heater going nuts. It's 80-ish. And then these, you can almost see where I have now Reflectix inside a moving blanket. And but then you can see where it's cold, where that blanket in the Reflectix isn't where it is. And this is the kitchen again. Various sundry items, but you see how cold it is right at the bottom of the window. And then this is the door frame again. You know, it's almost uniform, and you see up above it is blue. You know, it's the framework, right? But that's very cold. And that's very cold. So the whole frame around the door is cold. Of course, there's Reflectix right in here. Really nothing here but the regular door. And there's the bottom of the door is very cold. What is that? Well, when I say very cold, understand that it varies. This is getting direct heat from the furnace. So what's 70 to 130 degrees? Well, this is getting blasted. So you have to take this tool with a grain of salt. You have to understand what it's telling you. Now the frame, again, is conducting cold. That's my Reflectix panel suspended across the trailer. You see what it's reflecting the heat. So it's doing its job. The windows are doing its job. Those are the front windows with Reflectix and the shade drawn. Side also. So everything's reflecting heat. You know, you get to an uncovered part of the ceiling. Let me try to move. You know, doesn't reflect like the Reflectix. But, you know, I'm not going to cover the whole thing. What is that area? Oh, that's the AC. You know, that's probably where cold air actually comes into the AC. Okay, back to the bed. Again, the TV was just on, so it's going to be warm. What's the mattress itself? 73 degrees. But I'm going to try to get a shot of the corner if I can. Yeah, there's the dreaded back corner. That's my pillow right there. What's that? 73. That's the far corner. The 50s. High 50s. And you can almost see the shape of the Reflectix panel inside the cupboards back there. And I can't get really a good angle on maybe that is it. No. The Reflectix over my bed. I guess that's it. So it is reflecting. That's really, yeah, that's really reflecting. So getting some heat from above instead of letting it all go out. And then the last thing is I'm going to open up the head and go up, and you can see my Reflectix cap, I call it, that's over this is the coldest vent in the whole trailer. You notice the whole, you know, it's 40 degrees on the floor pan, and then it goes to 50, so there must be some, yeah, that's very cold. And then what you see here are approximate representations of the unheated portion of this trailer, and it's the storage area, and then on the port side it's also the shower, and it runs all the way across, and that makes up the bed platform. That is an unheated area, and if it's cold soaked, it's cold. Now it doesn't mean that air is blowing in from it to it from doors or anything. It could be sealed off, but once that gets cold, it's cold. And so I think what I've done has mitigated that. I haven't insulated that any additionally, but I think I've with the mattress being 73 degrees, with what I've done and everything, I think it's a really good start. Now this might be interesting to you folks. This is obviously a thermal camera on the furnace. You can see the furnace is in excess of 300 degrees, and let's see if I can get high temperature switch right there, that dark blob. I can't hold it and read it, but you'll have to tell me. So that's the heat exchanger back in there, buddy. And that is warm. This, if I can get it, this bright spot right there is looking through the flame window at the flame, so you can monitor the flame. Obviously I have the front grill off of it. Anyway, I thought that might be of interest to folks. This is a great tool for 150 bucks, folks. So that's really it. That's a roundup of the improvements. They're small, but they're additive to last year's. Remember, I have Reflectix in every window, and so that is a big help. And I did have that cap over the bathroom vent fan last year, but no weather stripping, nothing even remotely addressed the doors or the dreaded refrigerator vent. And with what I've done internally, it's going to be very nice. I mean, it's shirt sleeve weather all day for the past 2 days, you know, as expected. Nothing, and that was with my ceramic heater on half. I didn't even use my furnace. So, you know, it got down to what, 15 degrees last night, right? Let's see, 15.8 degrees this morning outside. I slept like a baby. So that's it. Make your improvements. The inTech Soul Horizon can be made into a winter ship. Going into a big one, I think, this time. Hope not, but we'll see. All right, have a good night, and see you later.